Thanks for watching. Subscribe and like to help us grow the channel, and watch to the end for an epic fail. On this episode of Sea Kayak Life, we're prepping for a trip to the coast.
We're heading down to the coast of South Carolina and Georgia, maybe North Florida. We're going to paddle at several different locations over several days, and we can't really pack, or we don't want to pack everything in our boats for every day. That would just be a lot of weight.
So one of the things that we do to prepare is we have an extensive list. Now the list covers things that we put in the car, and it covers things that we put in the boat. You want to tell them why we have two lists?
One of the first trips we ever went on, we actually forgot the list.
We did forget the
We
list.
should have put on the list to take
the list.
But we were in a panic. We were losing daylight, we were losing our tide cycle, and we just rushed out to sea, and we forgot about half the stuff that we needed, and we were like, never again are we going to do this. And why do we have two lists? Well, one is extra stuff for the car, stuff for future days, and then we put stuff in the boat that's going to end up in the boat at the end of the day. It's going to be wet and nasty.
And it stays in the boat.
We don't want it in the car.
No. So a lot of people ask us, do you guys camp when you go kayaking? And the short answer is we don't anymore.
We used to. I mean, we like camping, but we just kind of learned, I mean, it would take a bigger list.
A much bigger list.
Much bigger list. Yeah. We learned it was like 80% of the effort for camping with sea kayaking was for the camping, and only 20% for the sea kayaking. And I'd rather just spend more time on the sea, go more places. It's that simple.
Yeah. So let's talk about what we're taking and why.
All right, well, let's get started. Probably the most important bag to me is my food. We call it our feed bag. And it's all prepackaged, but I take things that I've learned over the years will set well with my stomach after tossing and turning on the sea. I've got carbs, I've got protein. I usually take things like just having a napkin or a rag to wash off your glasses can be really nice. So that's my feed bag. Also, obviously, you got to take plenty of liquid. Now, I find, you might think this is kind of surprising, but just 2 bottles of Gatorade or Powerade, if it's not going to be a hot day and you're going to be out for 8 or 10 hours, is usually plenty. If it's going to be hot, I might take 3. And I always take a bottle of fresh water. It's not for what you think. I mean, I would drink water if I was really thirsty, but it's good for cleaning wounds if you get injured, or if there's saltwater intrusion in some of your electronics, you can clean it out.
Now, we both take a bag of extra clothes, and some of that's just because we get soaking wet when we're out in the ocean. So we hit the beach and we put on some dry clothes, a dry shirt, we wear a pair of sweats, and you may have noticed they're always long sleeves, even when it's hot. And one of the reasons is to keep the bugs off, and also we just don't have to use as much sunscreen.
Next are what I call my cockpit bags. In this case, I have a day hatch, so I can keep them in there. But these are the things that I might need to get out on the water, even if I don't want to breach my spray skirt and get to it quickly. Things like a small knife, an extra pair of glasses, a strobe light, a tiny headlamp, just things that I might need on the water.
Next in this bag, I just got a lot of stuff in here, and I usually keep this in a day hatch behind me. It has things like bug spray, some napkins, some rags, some flashlights, toilet paper. You never know when you gotta go. So I just keep this handy with me all the time.
Next is our survival bag, and we don't take this all the time, but if there's any chance that we might get stranded on an island overnight, then this is what it takes just to survive. We don't have to be comfortable. I mean, for goodness sakes, you could take wine and cheese and have a party, but it's not about being comfortable, it's just about surviving. And I've got things like a survival blanket, lots of first aid, fire starting, wet matches, extra batteries, things to make a tourniquet, and there's signaling in here. I've got a laser that we could signal a boat or a plane. There's an SOS signal, so just things to survive.
All right, in this little bag, I keep it up front in my day hatch, and it has things like ibuprofen, Tums, things like that. It's also, I can put my wallet or keys in here. Sometimes I keep a snack up there, so when you're underwater and you really can't stop to eat, you can just grab a little snack real quick, a granola bar or something.
We always break things. If you've seen any of our episodes, you've seen us break things. That's why we have a repair kit. And it's small. We've kind of boiled it down to the minimal things, minimal tools that we could repair most of the things that might break on the boat. We've got Gorilla Tape, which actually could keep you afloat if you puncture a part of the hull. Super glue, which can glue most of the rubber or neoprene back together. We've got some extra rope, twine, bungee, basic tools and wrenches, a small light. So that's the repair kit.
And finally, we've got a sunshade, and this is something we do. We set up a little day camp. It's not for overnight, it's just to keep the sun off. Looks like a big bag, but it packs down real small.
Probably your most important piece of gear is your PFD. And you know, if you get separated from your boat, this is all you're going to have on. And I keep things in here that I could possibly survive in the sea for a short time. I've got a strobe light so that perhaps I could be found at night. I keep my gloves in here. I've got a small rescue knife. If you're going more than 3 miles offshore, you're required to have flares, or these days you can just have a signaling flag that you can lay out on the surface of the water and they can see you from the air. Yeah, that's about it.
And I like to always have my nose plug, because if you're in the surf, you may want to put the nose plug on, because if you get rolled, then you don't suck up the ocean in your nose.
We usually wear our spray skirts, especially if we're going offshore, but sometime if we're going to be in a river or a creek at the beginning of the day, I might just take my spray skirt and stuff it behind my seat.
Next, let's talk about what we wear. Most of the time when we go in the ocean, we wear a vest and like a long sleeve rash guard, something like that. And we find this is really nice to wear in the surf and in the water, just to keep our core warm.
But we also have found this jacket. It's a NRS hydroskin, just like the vests. And it's not very thick neoprene. It's certainly not like wearing a full-on wetsuit. But, I mean, you get too hot when you're paddling, and it can be a pain wearing neoprene, but you got to always think, if I'm going to end up in the water, or if you're wet and it's a windy day, this could really keep your core warm.
Next, let's talk about what we wear on our heads. And we like these kind of hats because they have chin straps. Obviously, the hat's going to stay on our heads when we get rolled or if it's really windy. The other nice thing is, if you're wearing glasses with the straps, these are chums and it'll keep my glasses floating. The earpieces will go over your glasses and it'll actually hold your glasses on. So if you get rolled, your glasses and your hat both stay on. It's
really nice, and I like these little ear flaps. If you get hit in the ear with a big wave, it doesn't seem like it's going to rupture your eardrum.
That's true. We've talked about gloves a little bit, but these are my little heavier gloves. These are those Hydroskin that we like so much. I also use little lightweight gloves that you've probably seen me, and I just cut the fingertips off. We'll talk about that in another episode.
So of course you're going to have a paddle. If we're going offshore, we're going to have a paddle leash, just so that we don't get separated from our paddle. But just in case you lose a paddle somehow, or you break a paddle, I remember one day we broke 2 paddles.
2 paddles in one day.
So we both take a spare paddle. And I like to keep my spare paddle in my hatch. Sometimes they won't fit, so we found this nice design where it breaks down into 4 pieces and it can fit in most hatchets.
All right, what you put on your feet is real important. We like these little booties. These are, it sounds like we're doing an NRS commercial, but these are NRS.
They make good stuff.
They make good stuff. I like to wear socks with mine. You don't usually wear socks. You're a little tougher than me.
Maybe my feet are tougher.
I think they are. Cheers?
Cheers. It may sound crazy because we're sitting all day in our kayak seats, but when you get out on an island or you set up a little camp on a beach, it's really nice to have a place to sit so you're not just like crouching down in the sand. Sometimes you can't find a stump or a tree or anything, so we like these little chairs by REI. They're super lightweight. It's not much of a chair, but it gets the job done. Now we're going to talk about things that go in the car and stay in the car. We don't really need these except in case of emergency or something really extreme goes wrong. These 2 bags are repair kits, major repair kits. There's enough extra parts and tools in here, we can almost build a whole kayak. This bin is just a lot of spare gear, but the nice thing about having a Rubbermaid bin like this, if you come off the water and you've got wet or nasty gear that you just don't want to put in your boat, you don't have to trash the car, you can just keep it in here. And then we take a pair of wheels. These are wheels that break down. Sometimes we find that the launch site or the recovery site, it can be like a quarter mile away from the shore. And that's as close as you can get a vehicle. So it's nice to have a pair of wheels. You might have to take the boats one at a time, but it's better than carrying a heavy boat a half a mile.
All right, now let's put the boats on the car. But before we do that, let's give you 3 tips. Tip number 1, on your front bar, if you're a sea kayaker, you know that front bar can roar like crazy. So what we've discovered is if you take a long bungee or an elastic, if you're a Brit, and you wrap it around that front bar, the noise is gone. It's like magic. It's really, really cool.
It works really well. The second tip is we like to use these NRS straps to tie the boats down. They're super convenient. A 9-foot strap is enough to tie each end of the boat down. So for the 2 boats, that's going to be 4 straps. Sometimes we'll put a 5th strap, a 15-foot strap across both boats just as an extra safety precaution.
And our final tip is to get some foam blocks to protect your boat.
We typically just custom fit these blocks. We'll cut them out. We might have to glue 2 together.
And one of the reasons we do this is because, and this is the big news, we put our boats on the car upside down.
What?
And we're not shading anybody, but we found that if you put them upside down, you don't get water in the boats. And
the idea is, yes, to protect your boat, but you also want the boats to be level as you go down the road. You don't really want to catch the wind, so you want to be nice and aerodynamic. Usually you have to raise the end, the rear up a little bit, and you might have to lower the front a little bit, but if you get it nice and level, we've noticed we don't even have much effect on gas mileage if we get it just right. If you've got a more delicate fiberglass or carbon fiber boat, you probably want to get a saddle. But for a plastic boat that are pretty rugged, I would highly recommend you at least give it a try. Put them upside down.
Well, we're all packed up. We've got the boats on the car.
You know, there's a million variations of what gear you can take and how you pack it up. And we're not saying this is the only way, but over 20 years of doing this, we have just found this is the best way. It's most efficient for us. And we just really hope you get something out of this. Even if you just take away 1 or 2 things that you like, then it'll be all for the good.
Okay, we are running really late for our trip.
We're always running late.
But it's all part of our sea kayak life.
You know what wasn't on the list that we spent all day making and checking twice? My wallet. See if my wallet's in there, and I'm gonna need you to meet me somewhere with it. Oh my gosh, I just feel sick. I might throw up. Well, just start driving 75 south. We'll meet you somewhere. I cannot believe that. You saved the day!
I love saving the day.
Thank you so much.
Well, we just discovered that we have to add one more thing to the list.
My wallet. I can't believe I forgot my wallet. I never forget my wallet. But maybe with going through all the checklists, you just get into this false sense of, well, if it's not on the list, then I don't need it. I need my wallet.
It's all part of our sea kayak life.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe and like to help us grow our channel. And here's 2 more videos that I think you will like.